So I am so excited to have Bryn Panee Burkhart here with us. Bryn is the Senior Associate Director of Alumni Career Services at the MIT Sloan School of Management. There, she works with alumni to provide career guidance and workshops related to job search strategies, resumes, cover letters, and LinkedIn intelligent networking. Wonder what intelligent networking is all about. I think she's going to talk about that. Interviewing and salary negotiations. So Bryn's philosophy is like this. She believes that everyone should have an opportunity to pursue a career path that leverages their natural strengths and gives them a sense of purpose. She finds great meaning in working with those who want to be intentional about their career management strategy. Bryn guides her clients to be authentic to who they are, empowering them to own their professional path, cultivate their professional brand, and confidently market their achievements. A lot of the things that I just talked about, it's like everything is around communication skills. Like a lot of the things that Bryn is going to talk about are going to be communicating within, with self, and with the outside world. So excited to have her here. Bryn actually holds a BA in journalism from University of North Carolina, and she has a master's in higher education from Harvard University. She has completed her certified professional coactive coach training through the Coactive Training Institute and is a member of the International Coaching Federation. Without further ado, Bryn, welcome, welcome. I am going to spotlight you here.
All right, let's get on with that conversation. That was a big lead up. Let's just talk. My goodness.
Bryn, you deserve it. You deserve it. All right. Welcome, Bryn. Very happy to have you. Love the talk.
I'm happy to help your business and do this. I had no idea you had all these followers. It's awesome.
Thank you, Bryn. All right, so let's get started. Today in the audience, we have a wide variety of people. People who may be in career transitions even before COVID hit, people who are now looking for a job because of COVID, people who might be returning to workforce, so mostly women who might be returning to workforce. And then we also have some youth. So we may have some college students and we may have some, high school students. So we have a big mix of people here. Let me ask you the first question, and if you need to break it down to the various demographics, that's fine, or various customer avatars, that's fine. So somebody's looking for a job, right? Or they're in a career transition. I hate what I'm doing. I want to move on to something else, or I got furloughed, or I got laid off, or I want to do something different. What is the first step? It just seems like so much, right? We all start working on our resumes. Where should we go? What should we be doing?
Okay. Yeah. So when you're feeling a little aimless about how to approach your career transition, I think the most important step is to slow it down. And rather than be reactive and start looking at job boards and haphazardly putting together your resume or your LinkedIn or emailing people with no clear message, you first stop and take some time to do what I call reflective groundwork. I will say, I think preparation and confidence are the absolute key drivers of any successful career transition or search strategy. So you need to get prepared first. That was going to build your confidence, and that's going to enable you to move a lot faster and farther in your career search. So the good news is, if you're feeling aimless, I have some homework for you, or I have some tips. The first thing I typically recommend is doing 2 different audits, okay, if you will. And essentially this involves making 2 lists. The first list is a list of basically your core competencies, the things you do well, right? So you might look at your current work history or your prior work history and go role by role, year by year, and company by company, whatever works for you. And if you don't have paid work to look at, you can look at volunteer work or other organizations that you've been involved in. And you're going to be looking at value add. I actually have questions. I didn't know we were going to get this granular. I have some questions that you can ask yourself. I'm happy to pull those out and share those with your audience.
Sure.
But they're all questions that are designed to really filter down on your competencies. In what major decision-making have I participated? In what product or program or service or whatever have I introduced? How have I successfully managed others? That's just an example. Now, these questions can pertain to work or they can pertain to outside of work. I would offer that with the pandemic, we've all had to slow down a little bit. It's been a pretty tumultuous year for everybody, I'd say. So think about what skills have served you well in 2020. And you could also look at this at how have you been adding value, or what skills have you been leveraging as a partner, as a parent, as a sibling, as a friend. So I don't want you to limit your ideas around your value add to just being related to job or work or paid activities, right? Your ability to manage your life is indicative of a much broader skill set. So I really want you to step back and regain some perspective here. But this is going to involve being still and thinking. And I will tell you, I get a lot of resistance to this because people don't like to think and just be still. They like to go, 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 and do. All right, that's the first audit. So let me do the second one. I feel like I'm talking a lot, but the internal assessment you'll do in your second audit is really, I call it the required desire list, which means what are the things that you must have in your next role, as well as what are the things that you'd like to have in your next role. So this is not about the work. This is not about the skill set. This is about things like geographical location, your commute, whenever we get back to commuting, if that's important. Sometimes it is. I think I even remember talking to Daniel where he was considering a job and the commute came into play a few years ago or years ago. I don't even know when we worked together. The company size, the company culture, the company mission, the scope of your role, flexibility needs, the trajectory you might have, any other, work travel, any other lifestyle considerations. You're basically thinking about what is my work-life flow going to look like in a way that's going to be fulfilling and satisfying for me. And then with this list, you're actually going to rank it and prioritize it in terms of what is most important at this age and stage of your career, what is less important, because you're never going to get what you want. But I want you to give yourself permission to really dream big here and think about, what would your ideal work situation look like? So now you've got your two audits, your core competencies that you've filtered down by thinking about all those great ways you've contributed and added value in your career and in your personal life thus far. With that list, by the way, you probably want to hone it to maybe 5 to 8 skills. And I'm talking technical skills, knowledge and expertise, maybe your industry, for example, as well as those softer attributes that you might have. And then with the required desire list, you're prioritizing that. Now what you've got in front of you are the 2 things that you can control when you approach your job search. If you've carefully considered what you bring to the table and what's important to you next and why, this helps from you getting tripped up by all these external messages like, who's going to hire me? What do? I don't know where to start. I'm so overwhelmed. We're in the middle of a recession. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Now you have anchored yourself in the 2 things that you can control, and you can begin to think about how to best position yourself when it comes to looking at the market, because that is the other layer to this. And I feel like I should stop talking right now and let you ask me more questions. Does that help with where to start? I think that was your question, where to start.
Exactly. And this is really great because we all get this grounding and we can just kind of rebalance ourselves, because it is a nerve-wracking situation, especially if somebody has just kind of lost a job. Okay, so.
Well, and can I just comment? I do think the important thing here is for us all to realize that we do have choice and we do have power in how we choose to approach this situation. You can't necessarily control the market and the conditions, but you can control what's within you and the mindset you have and how carefully you think about what you want to be doing next, and what you bring to the table, and what needs and preferences need to be met in order for you to be happy. That at least gives you some sense of grounding.
This is fantastic because you did lead me. This is a great segue into my next question, which is mindset. Before we go into the tactical things, you talked about grounding. What mindset should we go ahead with? because there's a lot going on up here. There's a lot going on probably in the family or, you know, in our surroundings. You said you have the choice and that you have the power. That sounds very good. It sounds, oh, really? I have the choice and power. So tell us a little bit more about that and how can we kind of have that percolate within our system?
Yeah. So, you know, I think I sit with people every day who are in transition, and sometimes it's not their choice, right? People have been fired or let go, or people just are not happy anymore and they want to do something different. And so I think you need to give yourself whatever situation you're all in, and everybody's got a different, you know, different support system, different things that are happening. I want you to give yourself permission to, especially if you have been trying and are feeling frustrated, like just give yourself a break, give yourself some grace. I've had people call me before and say, I just got let go yesterday and I need to find a new job. And I tell them, I can't talk to you right now. You still are in a reactive mindset, meaning there's lots of emotions that need to come up and frankly be processed before you can then shift to a mindset that's going to serve you well. It's like the 7 stages of grief. People are angry, people are ashamed, people feel, you know, sad. So give yourself permission to feel those negative emotions. I don't want to get too woo-woo here, but I mean, we're not our emotions. You know, you can feel angry, but it doesn't make you an angry person. You can feel guilty or upset, but it doesn't mean that defines you. So I think separating yourself from your feelings is important. I don't want to talk too much, but I feel like we have to recognize that we have within us, it's like the combination of self-acceptance and self-authority. So accepting yourself for who you are and again, this groundwork is great for that. It allows you to analyze all the things that have gone well or not well in your career. So accepting and kind of owning where you've been, the career decisions you've made, and what's brought you to this place now is important. Then the other thing is self-authority, which is really realizing that you have the ability to lead your life rather than let your life lead you. And I think there's a lot of people who tolerate their lives and react to their circumstances rather than kind of figuring out how to best move forward. So taking that, really what gets you in touch, I think, with that kind of self-authority is coming down from that reactive place where I was saying you want to go and do, and you're resistant to doing this reflection work. And the reflection work that I'm mentioning, I think, is the first step in getting you towards that positive mindset. There's no, switch, but it is making a choice every day about how you're going to show up, the perspective you're going to hold. So bad days happen, but you get up and you try a new day with a new perspective again. I hope that doesn't seem too Pollyanna-ish. I'm trying to, I know everybody has different things going on. There's a lot of stress. But I think it is an important concept for people to realize that you do have choice.
Even just that concept that you introduced, that we have the choice, a lot of times we don't realize it, or you can take the life, you can lead the life the direction you want to go in. That's really powerful. Guys, this is really, really important. Just write this down. You have the choice, you have the power, guys and gals, and you can really take your life in a direction you want to. That's like step 1 of the mindset. Bryn, would it also be helpful for us and our audience to maybe talk to friends and family to identify more of those competencies, or what am I really good at, or what do you think are my strengths, or what do you think I can get better at? Because sometimes when we hear it from other people, it just feels a little bit more real than us coming up with that too.
Sure. I mean, that sounds like doing like a 360 review, which is commonly done as people are doing assessments. However, here's what I think. You should start with your inner reflection work first, because nobody knows you better than you. And I do feel like sometimes people get tripped up by these external messages and judgments that are placed on them by family and friends who are well-intentioned, but don't sit in our shoes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I would start with doing that internal groundwork.
Okay.
And can I say one other thing? Just sorry, I don't know how much I'm supposed to be talking or not talking, but
It's your
I want to just say, sometimes I think people who hear you have a choice and they still feel very depressed are kind of like, this is bullshit, right? Sorry, can I curse on this? Sorry. So they just get very like, really? I can't. And so here's what I want to say is that you don't always get to choose the circumstances of your life. Okay, I get it. We don't always get to choose the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic and a recession. However, we do get to choose to create from circumstance, from what is. And we get to, you know, author our own story, if you will. So self-authority is really linked to that. It's the self-acceptance, and then it's kind of saying, you know what, I don't like this, but I got to figure out where to go from here.
Sure, that makes really good sense. I'm going to step into a very different area now. So we did self-introspection right now. Then the other thing you had mentioned is, you know, people are probably dying to jump into the job search, right? You had talked about a networked job search and intelligent job search. What is that, and what are the steps that we need to take if we were to go into that? Or are we ready for that yet? Or should we do some other steps before that?
Well, I mean, I think you need to start with your network or with your reflection, and then you need to get yourself positioned, meaning you need to think, okay, how am I going to look at my skills and my strengths and my required desire list and put this up against the market and look at the opportunities in the market that might be available where I'm going to have the best chance of getting my talents and skills utilized and my priorities met. To me, that's essential. It's basically market research and your positioning in the market. Then you're going to want to, you know, work on your branding, your resume, and your LinkedIn. Then you're going to need to get a pitch ready, right? That narrative that tells somebody, who are you? What do you do well? What is important to you next and why? That's all that preparation has to come before you can confidently execute on a networked, intelligent networking. So I just didn't want you to miss that piece too.
Sure, thank you. So let's maybe dive here deeper a little bit here. Okay, so understanding what is your strengths and your passions and your experience and matching it with the positions that you could potentially get. Getting your pitch ready, and identifying the areas where you want to start approaching your job. Do you want to go deeper anywhere in this section, like any one area that is like really important that you want to leave our audience with?
I don't know how much training you do around the branding. I guess I would say, I think LinkedIn is probably how you're going to drive your branding. So I would pay more attention to that. I don't think this is a LinkedIn webinar though. So let me just put that out there that resume is still important, still necessary when there's an actual job for which you're applying, but you're going to be leading with LinkedIn. And I think it is really important to have that because you will use it in a networked job search.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So this is really helpful. So we're preparing internally. Now the pitch, should we practice our pitch with somebody, or should we come up with the pitch in tandem with somebody else? What do you recommend?
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got to practice, thinking about what you're going to say and then actually saying it out loud are two different beasts, right? So oftentimes when you talk about yourself, you'll go on way too long. And in this day and age, people's attention span is just way too short. It's short. So you've got 60 seconds to 90 seconds to quickly talk about, who you are, anchor yourself in a professional identity, talk about your skills and talents as they relate to your target and goals. So tape yourself on your phone, play it back. You'll be appalled the first time you do it and hear how you sound. But that gives you then the ability to keep sanding it, keep honing it. It's like a piece of wood. You keep each one, you just polish it a little bit more till you get to a place where it sounds prepared, but not robotic, right? Where you feel confident. This is a real confidence builder. Like I said, Preparation and confidence are two key drivers of a career transition. So doing the groundwork, intentionally branding yourself, thinking thoughtfully about the market, doing the research, getting your pitch together is critical before you start getting out there and networking. Otherwise you'll squander valuable, conversations perhaps.
This is really, really great, very valuable. All right, should we go into network job search now?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody,
So,
reminder,
sure.
drink a sip of water.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought we were going to be chatting, and I feel like I'm doing all this talking. I've got a lot to say around intelligent networking. Here is the gist, guys. Okay. You can't find a job in a vacuum. You've got to get out there and think about your network. And oftentimes when I say networking, people, get very nervous and anxious and think of it as this dreadful soul-sucking activity that is just not for them because they're an introvert or they don't like talking about themselves, or they don't like putting themselves out there, or they think of it as selling themselves. And so what I want to do first of all is talk about mindset. I want to shift your perspective to what networking really is. I want you to think about network as being research. It's just having conversations to get information that is going to possibly help you in your career journey, in your career search. When you network with that goal in mind, and this is what I want you to understand, networking should not be transactional, meaning I need you to help me get a job, or I see there's a job at your company, can you refer me in? That's transactional. Networking should be relational. It's about sowing seeds and planting seeds for the future. That's why you want to do it early. This is going to be a long road. So this is not for someone that needs to have a job in the next week. This is something that can take 3 to 6 months, maybe even longer when you get to the senior levels, unless of course you're playing with like executive retained search firms. So just know that going into it. The goal of networking should be to get what I call allies, people who are then going to help you get into the hidden job market. You probably heard these statistics before. Most jobs are not necessarily advertised. So, well, and that depends actually, because now I need to be thinking about the audience I'm speaking to, and you've got such a variety. So there are tons of entry-level jobs that are on LinkedIn.com, for example, and job boards. And it's appropriate to look at job boards. I think they are market research though. Think of them as telling you what companies are hiring, what companies are growing. But if at all possible, you would want to figure out how to talk to somebody in that company and actually make a real connection. The other piece around networking is, I talked about the hidden job market, it's relational, you're getting allies, and it's research, right? So hopefully those things in and of itself can make it a little more palatable for people who are just not thinking this is the way they want to do it. I actually recommend taking a very tactical approach to this. And it starts with looking at your network. And the most logical place to start here is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional networking platform. If you're not on it, you should be. It is how people recruit and source talent these days. So, and then again, I mentioned LinkedIn. Of course, make sure your profile is good and you've got an all-star profile, or you clearly put your narrative out there, your pitch out there. I'm talking so much, I need more water. Essentially, what I recommend you do is you're going to download all your first degree connections into a CSV file. Okay, so this is pretty tactical. You can do this on their privacy settings. And you're going to look at every first degree connection. And I personally recommend that you only are connected with people that you know and trust, who would pass what I call the favor test, meaning, would I do this person the favor of introducing them to someone in my network? And would I feel comfortable asking this person to do the favor of introducing me to someone in their network? If the answer is yes, keep them as a first degree connection. If the answer is no, my advice is to get rid of them, okay? They're not going to see that you've banished them or delinked them or whatever. But you want to have the integrity of your network then being people that you know and trust, because that is going to enable you to best leverage your second degree connections, which are the connections of your connections. I try and keep mine just under 500, but I have close to 500,000 second degree connections. But my ability to tap those people and to maybe get an introduction is only as strong as our mutual connection. So in my opinion, it does you no good to have 2,000 contacts with at least half of them you don't know who they are, you can't recognize them, and not being people that you feel that you can actually network with, right? So I have you start by cleaning up your network. Get out those connections that don't pass the favorite test. Now, inevitably, you'll think of people, who should I add? And I recommend looking at 4 buckets. Your family and friends. Yes, it's okay to have family and friends on LinkedIn as your connections. If they have professional connections and you feel comfortable with, hopefully, with your family and friends, of course they're going to tee up those introductions. I've seen great connections made that way. Someone I just worked with in the last fall, their cousin ended up getting them a job because they were neighbors of someone who worked at their Target company. Who would have known, right? Family and friends, obviously your work colleagues, so shared work experiences, connections, past, present, vendors, clients, work related. Your alumni affiliations, of course, I always talk about using the MIT and MIT Sloan alumni network in my group, but whatever alma mater you have, or whatever institutions you attended. And then that's your 3rd bucket of powerful connections. And then your 4th are just your everyday kind of volunteer community connections, your neighbors, the parents of your kids' friends, people you worship with or worked out with when we used to go to gyms. So you want to get that network nice and tight, full of integrity, people that you know and trust. Do you have any questions so far? Because again, I'm worried about talking too much.
This is all great, and you are lining up all these steps for us. I think no questions right now. We're going to open it up to questions in a second here. If audience members have a question, just type it in the chat. But also, I know she has so much, such wealth of information. We just want to make sure that, we get the download of it. So
okay.
I don't see any questions. You can keep going, Bryn. And
all right, well,
talking. We're so happy to hear you talk. So.
Thank you. Well, I want to make sure this is a fireside chat. Let me just keep going because I want you to see how I lay this all out. So you're curating your network, you're adding in new connections, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to break all your first degree connections down into 3 different buckets. So the first bucket will be what I call your general information group, or your general group, meaning these are people who have no ties or connections, or so you think, to your targets or goals. Now remember, before you do any of this, you're going to have done all that groundwork, reflection work, branding work, so you have a direction, right? You might want to work in 2 or 3 different industries, but at least you know the 2 or 3 different industries, okay, or the function. So you're going to have that general bucket. It's usually like family and friends, people who you don't think who can help you. Then you're going to look at first degree connections who actually are in some way connected to some of your targets. Maybe they're in the city that you live in. Maybe they are in the industry you're in or the function that you're in. So these are going to be people that you have passed the favor test and who also have some sort of relevance to your goal. And then the 3rd bucket is you're going to look at your second degree connections. So you're going to look on, advanced search filters on LinkedIn. You can see your second degree connections, and you can further filter on them by industry, function, company, keyword. I can't remember. Actually, I don't think keyword. So that's going to tell you people that you have the potential to meet. So you'll look at that first degree connection because you are going to ask them to make an introduction to you. So then you need to have 3 different types of messages that you're going to send. The first message is going to be to that general bucket, to people that you don't think can help you. And it's going to be something like, hi, everybody, I hope you're surviving in this crazy year, I hope your 2020 is getting better, however you want to frame it. I am now getting serious about my job search, or I am now embarking on a job search, or I'm now focused in my job search and am looking at, and this is where you give elements of your pitch, product management roles in the Bay Area or New York. Again, for people who think, I don't know exactly what I want to do, it's okay, just throw it out, but have some sort of direction. Product management in maybe tech or consumer goods, I don't know. If you happen to know of anyone who might be a resource in my search, I'd love to hear from you. And if I can do anything for you, don't hesitate to ask. That actually reminds me of a very important component of networking, which is always, always asking if you can be of help. This is something a lot of people typically neglect. And for those of you who are concerned about networking being begging for a job, this is a nice way to make it a little more reciprocal. You may not be able to help them, but at least you're asking, is there anything I can do for you? Introductions I can make or whatever. Maybe you know something about them personally that could be of benefit. So that would be your message to your general bucket, right? This is actually how I mentioned earlier, someone's cousin got them a job. She sent the general email and the person said, I live next door to someone who works at that company. I mean, hello, you never know. Second message is to your first degree connections. That's pretty straightforward. Hi, how you doing? Check in with them. I am now on my job search. I am looking at positions in the Boston area in these types of roles or industries. If you know of anyone who would be this one, first degree, you're actually maybe going to ask them for a 20-minute chat. And I mean 20 minutes, especially in this virtual world. We do not have time to be spending hours with each other. You know, someone's going to give you the gift of their time. You ask for 20 minutes. And especially it's efficient now with Zoom, right? So that would be your first degree network message. And then for the second degree network, you would tell them again, you know, I'm intent on my job search. Here's my pitch. I noticed you're connected to this person who has an affiliation with my target company, role, industry, whatever. Would you be so kind as to introduce me to him or her? I promise I will only take 20 minutes of their time. If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know, right? So of course you're going to prioritize all your first degree connections that you end up having. That general bucket is pretty easy. Start with the first degree connections. It's low hanging fruit. It gives you the opportunity to practice your pitch with someone you know and trust, maybe before you move on to those heavy hitters or second degree connections. So then you're going to start meeting with people. And I do have like a 5-question, 5-step meeting structure too, but I'm going to stop again.
This is really, really helpful, especially the part about how can I help, or what can I do to help? Or is there sometimes taking that one step further, what is it that you are, you know, kind of working on, or if there's anything that I could help you with? Because a lot of times, you know, people just say, oh, I'm fine, I don't need anything. But if you ask a little bit deeper, then they will offer an area where you are able to help. And then it becomes a little bit more of a symbiotic relationship. I've used that quite a bit in the past. And people, you know, Bryn, to your point, people are actually really surprised, especially when there are people in power or people, you know, sometimes I speak to executives and CEOs and they're like, oh, wow, nobody ever asks me that. So thanks for asking. So that's really great. And I've
worked with many people who tell me that was a game changer for how their networking was going.
Yeah.
It changed the energy in the conversation. Yeah.
So I have 3 more questions in the interest of time. We're at 6:38 and then we'll open it up to audience questions. So one question is this, that, you know, times have completely changed and there are fewer jobs and so many people applying for the same jobs. How do you stand out for that job compared to other people? The competition is just immense. You know, granted that we've done all the homework that you asked us to do. What can we do to stand out and actually bag those jobs? We all need one job, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, it's going to depend on the market, the company, the recruiter, the policy. So there's no like magic wand I can tell you to wave and how do you get that job? What I can tell you is be prepared, be confident, show up your full self, take ownership of your behavior, of your choices, and really use every avenue available to you. And don't rely just on job boards. Use this networked search approach. That is going to give you, that's going to enable you to kind of really tap into those hidden jobs that might exist. Really quickly, you know, I talked about the 20-minute networking conversation you can have. I mean, really, you're going to ask that person 3 questions about them, because it's about them, not you. I mean, first of all, you'll introduce yourself and say hello, and you might give your 1-minute narrative, but then you're going to make it about them. They're giving you the gift of time, so don't squander it. Your 4th question would be, anyone else I should be speaking to? That's how you get referrals. Then you start following those breadcrumbs and expanding your network. And your 5th question is, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything I can do to help you? And hopefully you've had the kind of conversation where you've learned something about that person based on those first 3 questions. And if they come up short, I'm not really sure if you can do anything to help me. You can find something that you can offer. Maybe there's a business book or a podcast you can recommend that they might find helpful. Maybe there is something personal, you know, maybe they say they like golf and you know a great golf course or something to recommend. You know, it's not like you have to hook them up with free golf, but just give a nugget of information back to them. So your question was really, how do I bag that job? How do I stand out? You stand out by being prepared, grounded, confident, with a mindset that says, I'm going to choose every day to talk to as many people as I can. And there are some things that you're just going to have to let go. If all you're doing is applying online, throwing your resume in black holes, you're not doing enough. So you need to do more than that. I said at the beginning, you can't do your job search in a vacuum. You've got to get out there and talk to people.
And also companies, you know, references, internal references mean a lot to the companies. They are getting a lot of resumes. So if an employee gives you a resume, it just carries so much more weight. You know, a lot of Googles and Facebooks of the world, many times, I'm not saying all the time, don't look at those submitted resumes many times. They need a reference from an employee. Now, coming on to Zoom, again, living in a different world. I mean, a lot of the tips are both Zoom and off Zoom, online and offline, they will work. A lot of people ask me, how do I create that first impression or build that rapport on Zoom? Eye contact. I mean, I don't find it hard making eye contact on Zoom, but just general Zoom tips. What can people do to show who they really are as a person on Zoom?
So this actually reminds me of a great TEDx talk by Amy Cuddy, who is a social psychologist at Harvard Business School. If you just Google Amy Cuddy, C-U-D-D-Y, it's called The Power of Body Language. It's a 15-minute TED Talk. It's great for those of you who are needing help with that mindset, feeling imposter syndrome. So she recommends kind of doing this, you know, power pose to get yourself confident and get those neurons firing before any, you know, high stakes situation like a Zoom interview or something like that. So again, it's really kind of starts internally. Everything starts internally. That's going to be kind of the bottom line for me tonight. When you're looking at your setup here, so I think you want to find a quiet space where you're not going to be distracted or interrupted. The best way to show up online is to be front lit, not backlit. So I've got 2 windows here in front of me. I mean, so the light is coming in. And I've got lights on. You don't want to be backlit so that you're a shadow. You want to have your laptop at eye level so that we're not looking up your nose. I see Denise and Vishwa, great job. You've got yourself at eye level. I'm sure everybody's been on a Zoom meeting in the last few months where you're looking at people's nose. It's not pleasant. So go head on, right? And you want to smile. You could even stand up. Even if you have, like I've got my laptop on a shoebox. But I have a standing desk sometimes, and that might be great too. When you're standing, it changes kind of the energy of the room. You can feel a little more open or a little more grounded because you have 2 feet on the floor. But other than kind of getting yourself psyched up to have a great conversation, great lighting. Oh, think about your background. I don't know that I'm the best example because you can see my light in the back. I see that I'm in my family office. But just make sure whatever's in the background is not too distracting. And of course, everybody has Zoom backgrounds now that they can choose. So just choose something that's not too distracting.
Thank you. That's really, really helpful. I invite the audience members to start typing their questions in the chat box, and we'll pick up the questions from there. While they're typing them, I just want to ask one last question. I said last, but okay, I think this would help them. What are the areas outside of networked search? What other places are still good to look for jobs, or at least get an idea of what's available outside? So is monster.com, is it LinkedIn, is it just Google? Where do you go look for what's available right now?
I mean, I say, I think if you have to look at a job board, the two that come up for me are LinkedIn and Indeed.com probably. I didn't even know Monster was still around, my goodness. But then there might be industry-specific job boards that you could look at. So Google those. You know, I know there's been a lot for people that are interested in startups. You know, I would look at AngelList. I can't really rattle off all the different types of industry-specific job boards, but based on your target role, target function, target industry, there might be specific job boards that would help you. And then, of course, hopefully you can winnow, you know, things down through your research and look at actual companies and then look at their job boards based on the company. It's also a great question to ask in a networking conversation too. Like, where might I see the best, you know, available jobs for this industry?
That's a great question, actually, just to kind of ask in a networking group.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going over to the audience questions now. Okay, so starting. Okay. So this question is from Lee Wallace. I really appreciate the LinkedIn information. I had heard you should accept any request to connect unless there is some reason not to. What is the harm in having more connections?
Well, so again, there are different schools of thought on this. For me, as I said, when you have people that you don't know and trust, then you are not really able to tap into those second degree connections. And second degree connections can be more powerful than first degree connections, because those are the people you have the potential to meet. Those are people who, with a warm introduction from your mutual connection, you're going to have the chance to have a blank slate with them. They don't have any preconceived notions about you, what you can or can't do. You've just come with a referral. But when you've got, you know, 5,000 connections, then to sort through the second degree connections that you might want to talk to and then have to backtrack and think half of them you don't even feel comfortable reaching out to, I think in a job search does more harm than good. So sure, you can definitely rack up connections, but how are you leveraging them? You know, how are you using them? What good are they doing? I guess I'd flip that question. I think you would do better by having a close network of people that you know and trust, and therefore you have a network of integrity.
Thank you. From Purnima, so it's about job search. When you submit to your resume through one of those platforms like LinkedIn, you hardly get a response from recruiters. How do we make sure that recruiters take a look at our resume?
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, you can't make sure that they look at your resume, but you can figure out, again, maybe I have a first degree or a second degree connection at the company, or someone that when I'm doing my networking, I can find out if I can get an introduction to someone in the company. I mean, there's just really no magic way for me to tell you that a recruiter is actually going to look at your resume. That's why I do believe job boards can be a black hole. And if that is the primary way that you're looking for a job, you're not going to be that effective, depending on, you know, the age and stage of your career. Early stage, early entry level positions are going to be a lot easier to come by than more senior level when you get progress more in your career.
Along those lines, Bryn, there was an important point you had mentioned when you and I were talking. Can you just mention that here also? Looking for a new job is kind of like a full-time job, so that we, you know, everybody's kind of pacing themselves and everybody knows the timeline. And also you said earlier, it may take 3 to 6 months to a year. So if coming from you would mean a lot to say to them.
To tell them, sorry.
That it's so it's like a full-time job. So
well, yes. I mean, I'm asking you to take some time and do some inner work here. You know, like I said, not easy to do. It's not like you're going to bang it out in an hour. So you're gonna do, but a lot of the work, if you take the time to do that internal groundwork I talked about first of all, you're gonna get so much more traction in your search. Because then, man, you know what you're doing, right? So rather than kind of like feeling that you have to change your colors like a chameleon and change what you're saying depending on who you're talking to or what job you see, you have a direction, you have a North Star. And so take the time to do the work to get that North Star set. And that takes work. And then executing on the job search, the way I talked about it, that network job search, it takes work as well. But you got to put in the work to get out something, to get out of it something that is hopefully meaningful and fulfilling for you. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So what's the best way to prepare your references so that they represent you properly? This is from Denise.
To represent your references, to prepare your references, yes, it is so important to prepare your references. You need to make sure you get time with them live. I wouldn't even do it on email, and just make sure that they are very aware of your unique value proposition and how you've is essentially positioned yourself to the company in terms of the key skills, attributes, knowledge, expertise that you can contribute. So, whenever someone's asked me to be a reference for them, I've said to them, what do you want them to know about you? What is important that you want me to be able to share? And I, have appreciated it when they've given me kind of a few bullet points. Make sure you talk about this project I did, or that I've got great, organizational skills, or that I'm highly adaptable or have great emotional intelligence. I mean, it helps you help them help you by teeing up those bullets.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So Jacqueline says, I worked hard to keep my resume to 1 page, and as a mid-level professional, would it be okay to have it to 2 pages?
Yes, the rule of thumb is anything over 10 years of work experience, you can go to 2 pages.
Okay.
And just the one thing I'll say about resumes, do not jam pack your resume and get it on 1 page and think you're good. I would rather you space it out and have white space, because people will not read it if it's too dense. White space and formatting is really critical for a resume. So 2 pages, absolutely fine if you're mid-level.
So question from Sandy, if you need a reference, do you actually need a reference from your current job? If you do, then wouldn't your current boss find out? If you are in a position or...
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? There are, and again, I know we're looking at different ages and stages here, so I'm not sure where Sandy falls into that, but you should think about having a reference, someone that you know and trust. It doesn't always have to be your boss. Networking won't your current boss find out. So let's think about, that's important. If you are really wanting to keep a confidential job search, then when you are reaching out to your first degree connections, the people that you know and trust, then you want to be discriminating about who you choose to have an informational interview with or a networking conversation. Because if there is any chance that it could damage your current work situation, then you need to be careful about it, right? So, but I don't think that should prevent you from doing a network job search. You just need to be more discreet. And in terms of references, if you're talking to a company, you can say, I'm trying to do a confidential job search. I just cannot risk this. Would it do to have a reference from, my prior employer or someone else that can speak very directly to your strengths?
Thank you. So how effective is a cover letter?
Yeah, so Vernell, actually, I think my friend Kim Ehrlichson sent you to this. And so, hi, Vernell. How effective is a cover letter? It depends. There's a lot of companies that don't even ask for cover letters anymore. However, if, I always think it's worth going that extra mile. Now, remember, attention spans these days are very, very short. So this can just be a very clear, looking at the job description for which you're applying, looking at the role responsibilities, thinking about your transferable experience, and just saying, it is with great enthusiasm that I apply for this position at this company. Looking at the job description, I can confidently state that I can add value immediately by, bullet, bullet, bullet. Look at the responsibilities and what they're looking for, and then make sure that your experience is clear and tangible in that cover letter. Cover letters should be short, 1 page. And then you just wrap it up with, I look forward to talking with you, something like that. It can be quick and easy. Don't spend a ton of time. Look at cover letters that are pages long. Nobody reads those. Just like nobody reads your resume, which is why you really need to be on LinkedIn and have your LinkedIn in good shape too.
And that's a good point, Bryn, because a lot of times, especially when I speak to younger people, but that's in my resume. Yeah, it's in your resume, but I literally skimmed your resume. So, but I want to hear it from you. So just because it's in your resume, don't skimp on the details, because they want to hear your stories in your own words. So that's important. All right. So that's the end of the questions in the chat box. Right. Anything else? Bryn, any last minute thoughts or comments for us that we can, continue bringing? Pages and pages of notes here. And I'm sure everybody else has a lot of pages of notes too. And what are your last remarks for us?
Well, I mean, I feel like you talked way too much, but I think if you were to boil it down, what is the most important thing? It really is that you should be pursuing your next role with intention and purpose. And that is only going to come from doing that necessary internal groundwork. Like I said, there are way too many people that are miserable because they tolerate jobs that they're not happy in, or they think they have no power to change their situation. So being intentional and purposeful in your career is gonna, it's really gonna make you happy. We spend too much time at our jobs being miserable. This is about your whole life, looking at the whole life that you want to create for yourself. Having a place to go to work where you can be who you are and your values and you are honored and you are able to contribute and add value and get some of those priorities that's going to make your whole life work is only going to happen if you take charge. So I just encourage everyone to, do the groundwork, get prepared, get confident, be strategic, assess all those opportunities that are available to you as you navigate your career. Yeah. That's what I have to say.
Big round of applause for Miss Bryn. Bryn, that was really, really helpful. This is how I do it in my courses, right? We do this like that. And this was really helpful, very pinpointed action steps for us, and we're very, very excited. If you are okay to share where we can find you. I know you're at MIT, and if it's okay, if not, then that's okay too. It's okay.
So, I mean, I will say, I don't know that I'm going to be able to, I'm not going to take people on as clients or, do meetings necessarily, but if you have quick emails that you want to send and I can, respond quickly, then I'm happy to do so. And I guess since I am working with you, Jyoti, in my capacity as MIT, I'll give you my MIT email, which is Bryn, it's my first name that you see here on the screen, Bryn B at MIT.edu.
Thank you, Bryn. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's a very busy time of the year for you, so really appreciate you taking that one special hour for us. And
it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, and I'm so happy for you. You've just done such a great job affecting so many people's lives. So I love it.
Thank you. Bryn. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, bye, everybody. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this fireside chat with MIT's Bryn Panee Burkhart on career transitions and job search and how we need to communicate well through this whole process. If you liked it, I would request you to like, share, and subscribe to get more information that is relevant to your career growth. Also, I invite you to enjoy our free course, Speak with Confidence for Maximum Influence. The link is in the show notes. And this is a great mini course with highly implementable strategies tips and techniques which you can use right away, and you can use these during your job search and recruiting process, and even after that for work or life conversations, communication, presentation, or talks. Thank you again for listening. Again, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us to continue producing great content that would be useful for you. Thank you again. Have a great day.